Live from London, it's Plank of the Week with Mike Graham.
Welcome to Plank of the Week. I'm Mike Graham. It's Friday night. This is talkTV. This is the one place you want to be for the next hour because we are going to give you all the biggest planks that you've seen all week. And I've got a great panel. I've got Jeremy Kyle. I've got Candice Holdsworth. I've got Stephen Allen. I've got Ash Gould. Let's get it going. Now, you've got a judge for us, Jeremy.
An Iranian asylum seeker who should have been deported has not been deported. Can you guess why? Because, ladies and gentlemen, this man sells vibrators for a living. He smuggles sex toys. He makes a fortune, right? We're going to have a mass debate about this. You see what I've done there? This man said and he claimed, if I go back to Iran, right, under Islamic law, I will be ostracised and my family won't be able to survive. So the judge went, that's OK. You stay here with your vibrators. You can be a British citizen. Under Sharia law, which is implemented, of course, by the Iranian government, sex toys are illegal. So you know what? Stay here, smuggle your sex toys, make all your money. You can be a British citizen. What an absolute load of tripe.
I've spotted a flaw in this guy's story, though, because if he's smuggling sex toys, why is he smuggling them? Because you can buy them freely in this country. I mean, you can go to a shop and buy them.
Mate, I love you dearly, but found a flaw in the story.
Yeah.
There's about 150 million flaws.
No, I mean a flaw in his story. I mean, the fact is, he calls himself a smuggler, but where is he smuggling them from?
Where does he put them?
Where does he keep them?
He smuggles them. It just feels...
I mean, I've heard of bunch
all throughout the show, there was a buzz around this story. You see what's happening again?
He just uses them, and when they caught him with it, he goes, oh, no, I'm a business, this is my business.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not really,
Either way...
pleasuring myself.
Either way, on the back of... the best thing on Mike's breakfast show, apart from Mike, is the migrant of the day. We've had chicken nuggets. We've had I can't go back. There's a judge who literally bought the story. My sex toy smuggling business won't work if I have to go back to Iran. What does that say to normal everyday people?
It could be a whole TV series, this, couldn't it? You could just do a different episode every week.
Yes.
You know, my sex toy hell that stops me being deported.
But you can make your own.
That ITV, you know, you wanted ideas? I've got it, right? Migrant of the day with Jez and Mike. Sex toys this week.
Chicken nuggets, sex toys. This is a good week.
It is. It's not bad. My favourite always, as I always mention, is the Nigerian psychopath who's not allowed to be sent home because he's been possessed by the devil. I mean, go figure.
So that's a valid reason.
And so let's keep him here then. If
so there's many things that you can do. You can be baptised and become a Christian. You can claim that you are maybe gay, bisexual, or because there's loads of.
There's bisexual Jamaican. He couldn't be sent home.
He couldn't go bisexuality in Jamaica.
Yeah.
Did you want to go to Jamaica? No, I want to be on a cruise.
He's got them all today.
Either way, though, an Iranian asylum seeker gets to say because his sex toy smuggling business wouldn't work in Iran.
Do they make their own in Iran, like out of fruits and vegetables? Because
Probably.
that's how you do it.
I imagine so.
Warming them up in the microwave.
Fruits and vegetables?
Yeah, no, the people use pumpkins and things. Apparently, it was in that apple pie.
When you say apparently, you sounded like you
no, I don't know anything about it. Courgettes, you know, there's all
cucumbers.
You can change it however you want.
Kiwi fruit.
That's probably what they
Chickens
do.
they can use.
Well, it's for all the rage.
That's what I'm told.
It
Do you
sounds
not
like...
think that judge is a plank, though?
Yeah, he is. His name, by the way, I've got it here. It's Judge Lodato.
Sorry?
Make your own joke. Lodato.
Judge no bleeding data, I'd say.
Yeah, exactly right.
Wow.
Candice, over to you.
So my plank is the all-time favourite of Plank of the Week, net zero.
Yay!
So this week, a really big thing happened, really bad thing happened. Spain and Portugal suffered an enormous blackout, lost power. Immediately people were like, is it sabotage? That's been ruled out. Now, a lot of people are thinking, was it because the grid was mostly running on renewables at that time?
Which it seems to have been.
Yes, and it's an incredibly unstable, unreliable form of power. We all know that. Experts have been warning that something like this is going to happen for years. We know that the person who is in charge of basically implementing all the net zero policies in Spain is quite close to Ed Miliband, who also wants to bring similar madness here.
Of course.
And I do wonder if this is the moment where people actually start questioning the madness of this.
But isn't it funny, because all the authorities who love net zero keep saying things like, oh, we don't really know what caused it, as opposed to what they tried to tell us caused it at the beginning, which was a severe weather event. And everyone went, don't try that.
Trying to blame it on global warming.
Wasn't it like 27 degrees or something in Portugal? Who ever heard
I mean, very unusual, that.
They've had a trauma, haven't they, about this with M&S this week? You can't get a sandwich. There's no sandwiches now. That's net zero, a million. But I thought what was really interesting, on the back of that happening, did you see Blair getting involved?
Tony Blair came out.
And I had Tyson, who said to me, I bet you that is the beginning of the end of Ed Miliband Miliband, and Starmer will use that to get rid of that dangerous...
Well, he runs Starmer, doesn't he?
Blair? He keeps doing that, because Blair did that with What is a Woman? Do you remember? Tony Blair said, no, we should get rid of that. And then suddenly Starmer was like, I agree with Tony.
And the ID
He's like
cards,
this kind of Barack Obama
cards.
figure, isn't he, that sits behind the powers that be and sort of pulls the strings and tells them
It
what
was
to
quite
say.
interesting to hear that. Even people in Labour were saying he'll be gone in the summer.
Labour are now trying to sort of finesse it and say, well, he didn't really mean that. But of course he did. He knew exactly what he was doing. He doesn't say things by accident, Tony Blair, does he?
No.
But, I mean, the other thing that people pointed out was that for one day of the year, Spain and Portugal actually did achieve net zero because they had no power at all. So they did really well there on the green front. Just wipe out the electricity grid altogether and we'll all live happily ever after.
You know, when we talk about migration a lot, I do think the energy thing will be the number one thing at the next election, more than migration. I think when the people work out that actually this madness is increasing your bills and it's going to get more...
Most expensive in the world.
And there isn't enough wind. You'll have to import it. The price, I think that will be a major thing.
No, but luckily, here's what you can do, though. You can get Ed Miliband, right?
Yeah.
And get him on your show and get him to explain the prices and why they're so expensive here. Have a look.
Energy companies in this country are taxed at 78% on energy profits. That pushes up prices too.
No, that's wrong.
Another point for why this country has unbelievably high energy prices is that we tax our energy companies.
No, you're wrong. I'm really sorry, but you're wrong about that.
If you increase taxes on supermarkets to 78%, what would happen to the price of food?
It depends.
What would happen to the price of food?
It depends whether it's a domestic market where the price is set domestically.
This is a globally unquestionable factor about economics. You can't flatly deny my point.
I am denying your point when it comes to the question of these internationally set prices. That's the point I'm making.
If you lowered the tax of 78% on energy companies to the regular...
On oil and gas companies, it wouldn't make a difference to the price. In fact...
Yes, it would.
So, of course, that's entirely incorrect. Yes, the price of wholesale gas is fixed internationally, but not the domestic price.
He just went, no, like that fast show politician.
He got bullied at school, didn't he?
He must have done.
Something wrong.
I think he got bullied by his own brother. Remember him? The one who thought he was going to be leader of the Labour Party.
I
and
thought
he got
he
stitched
should
up
have
by
been.
the unions.
Do you remember him with the ukulele? He looked deranged.
Apparently
With that big rock with the NHS thing.
It was pointed out to me this week, actually, because we were talking about that and we played the clip, that it's not actually a ukulele, it's a child's guitar. It's worse than that.
That makes sense.
It's a child's guitar. And he can't play it.
He couldn't play it.
And he doesn't understand the business he's even running.
No, he
This
doesn't.
Labour guy that came on and talked about him said he'll be gone by the summer and Rachel Reeves will be gone after Christmas.
Yeah.
Genuinely. at the
I think she
beginning.
might be gone before the autumn statement. We can't talk about...
Richard the Third.
There's Richard the Third. We can't talk about net zero without mentioning Jürgen, though, can we?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, Jürgen, the man who runs GB Energy, who still doesn't have really much of an office.
Any staff?
Yeah. No, but, they've got a section. They've got a website now, so they are making some progress.
Right.
They've only been running for, a year now? They've finally got a website.
He's on 200 grand a year, Jürgen. Nobody's met him.
And they've got a positions vacant section inside of the website. Well, the problem is, guess how many situations vacant there are?
One?
There aren't any. There's literally no jobs.
It's like the NHS, isn't it? Yeah.
Jürgen. It's like a guy that, I keep saying this, he's like a guy who pretends to his wife he hasn't been sacked. He gets in the car every
Goes
morning,
to work,
goes somewhere,
to work,
sits there drinking coffee, comes home at 5 o'clock. How was your day, darling? Oh, absolutely warm me out. And he's just sitting there in the coffee shop drinking coffee.
And he's got no staff and no remit.
No.
He doesn't make any...
And no
They
job.
bought a load of furniture lately, didn't they, for about 100 grand?
I think they bought some
For
furniture,
nobody.
But I don't know where they're going to put it because they haven't got an office.
It would cost more energy to run a website saying there are no jobs vacant than just not mentioning it.
Yeah.
And its entire gig is meant to be not wasting energy.
Well, it does cost you some electricity to do that, doesn't it? Amazing. Over to you, Steve.
I'd like to nominate Youth Demand.
Quite
please.
right.
If you don't know who they are, they had a hit in the 80s with Pass the Duchy.
I remember that.
That's all right. We might
From
remember.
Birmingham, right?
Yeah.
Musical Youth.
Oh, that was what I was thinking of.
Pass the Duchy on the left-hand side.
That was it.
All right.
That was Ash's. I think Ash knew that. You knew those guys.
No, my brother met. They used to live in the same close as my auntie Jeanette.
There you go.
Are you from Birmingham?
just about to say that.
Whereabouts?
Yeah.
Harborne, Harborne. They lived in Edgbaston, by the cricket
There was an
ground.
earthquake at Harborne and do £1 million of improvement.
Yeah.
I know Harborne.
Yeah, no, it's all right.
That was like when they said they were going to bomb Afghanistan back to the Stone Age. You went, well, how are you going to tell? You know. Anyway, listen, over to you,
Anyway,
Steve.
that's exactly what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
A deep dive into the area.
It's your own fault for pretending they were the musical you.
Yeah, it's like, I shouldn't have even tried
I
the
was
fun.
on that, man. Like it.
How about this instead? So we might remember Just Stop Oil,
Yeah.
and they stopped. You think that's absolutely fine. We don't have to worry about it now. Now we've got Youth Demand.
Yeah.
What they do, instead of turning up to a place and throwing orange powder at stuff, is totally different. They turn up and throw red powder. See, it's a very different
It's
vibe
different.
that they're going
Yeah,
for.
different. Very
they
different.
rocked up to the...
Here they are. It's on Tower Bridge during the marathon.
Now, the reason I'm upset by this is Just Stop Oil, they stopped people on the M25. And I said before, people on the M25 have already suffered enough.
Yeah,
right?
they have.
They've turned up and stopped people on the London Marathon. The only people who look like they're suffering more than people on the M25 are people trying to run a flipping marathon. Have they not suffered enough?
I know. And also, these are the elite runners that run. This is the very top end of the marathon they were trying to get in the way of. I wouldn't get in the way of some of these guys because they're quite capable of clattering you into the river.
They've said nothing has managed to achieve it so far, so therefore they must stop the London Marathon.
Right.
That'll bring it about. But...
and I saw them, right? One of them's called Willow, of course, and the other one is called Christy, or Crusty, whichever you like. And there they are.
Wind.
They don't look that young to me.
Right.
There they are holding up the front page.
30 or that 40.
I mean,
they
they're
had
not young.
planned, apparently, to bring London to a standstill all April, and they only got around to doing something on the 27th. So, students, get out of bed.
Also, how stupid are people who don't live in London who think, I'm going to go to London, bring it to a standstill. It's always at a standstill.
Yeah.
You ever tried to get across the West End?
It's also quite interesting what you just said. It's students, lazy little. I can't have it. They didn't do anything until the 28th because they've been on holiday.
Yeah, it's
They've been
Easter
in York
holidays.
with mummy and daddy.
Easter holidays.
It was nice weather
Haven't given
for
a
it, yeah.
toss about Palestine or Gaza or Israel in the last 3 weeks. It's been an holiday.
The only youth demand was, can I have another pina colada, please, Daddy?
Can
I
you
haven't got
pay
any
off
money
my
of my
credit
own.
card, you?
Yeah. Now, there's another funny bit about the marathon. There's a guy that ran all the way through on the marathon dressed up as Big Ben. If you look at this, you can see him there running
Oh, I
all
thought
the
you
way.
meant something else then.
No, we're not back to the vibrators. But the problem for Big Ben here is that as he gets to the finish line, he encounters a bit of difficulty because he can't get past the finish line.
That's
We need Stuart Hall now laughing.
So his time that he thought he was going to have is about 5 or 10 minutes out because they had to take quite a lot of time to get him under the banner.
Do you remember Verity used to work
Yes.
on our show? She ran the London Marathon for pancreatic cancer.
Oh,
She did
yeah.
about 3 hours, 12 minutes. I have to say,
That's
she
brilliant.
genuinely hand and art. So
That
many
is
people
brilliant.
raising. It was
They do.
brilliant.
They
Brilliant,
do.
that
We had a
was.
guy the other night on who did it as a pair of balls. So I don't know how he did.
Yeah,
For
I don't know.
testicular cancer. He didn't just wear a pair of balls.
I'd like to point out as somebody who's had testicular cancer, I've only got one ball. So why did he go with
Exactly.
two?
I thought that
He
as
should have
well.
gone with
Two,
one.
isn't it?
He should have gone
Just
with
with
one.
one.
Yeah, I
I know.
thought that.
He should have gone
That's
with
why I
one.
walk in. Honestly, that's depressed me now.
Over to you, Ash.
Yeah, well, mine's basically Rachel Reeves has got to come up with some new ideas. So she's come up with a milkshake tax.
Yes,
because
there
that's
she is
fun.
again. Richard III.
Whatever there is that's fun, they'll tax it. I mean, we all like them. And lattes, apparently, but they don't come with sugar, do they?
I don't understand why they've suddenly thought, I know, they've just found, they've got to
find something, haven't
they? They now
they?
want to tax horses as well. You know, that's the story today. They want to tax horse racing. They're up from 15p in the pound to 21p in the pound. It's not a good idea.
Well, in the old days, when they didn't have much fun,
You'd have to
grew
do that
moustaches
tax
for
paid
fun.
thing again like you used to.
They used to tax moustaches because that was all there was for fun, and then they taxed windows, didn't they? Because all lights fun in your house. So they've got to find everything because everyone's leaving the country, aren't they? All the billionaires are leaving, so they're just going to tax us.
Also, if people like
want a little bit of a
milkshakes-
milkshake, a little bit of light in our lives, and they'll tax that, man.
But surely if you put a load of tax on something like a milkshake, people would just stop drinking them, won't they?
Yeah. Well, it didn't work in
point?
Scotland with the alcohol tax, did it? It's just bankrupting them all because, you know...
Well, because they're all mad drinkers.
Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't stop you.
Well, no, it just means what it does mean is that they don't drink in a pub anymore. They drink at home.
They drink at home
and they
it's
buy it in the
even worse.
supermarket. Yeah, and then there's nobody telling them
There's
you've
no
had,
one,
you've had enough.
That's what's happened, or they make their own.
Also,
they make their own hooch.
with the fizzy drinks, when they used to put sugar in there, the sugar tax meant they put artificial sweetener in. But if you do it to a milkshake, you have to put enough in that it's got laxative effects.
Oh.
So one of the impacts of this tax will mean an increase in the laundry bill, I suppose. So it's going to impact
The environment as well, won't it? Because all the washing
You
machines
need
will
more
have to go
water
on.
as well for that, won't you?
Everyone's soiling them, so I didn't know that.
This is Rachel from accounts, who pretended to be an economist, has managed in 9 short months to get to a point where already the IMF are going, you've got no wiggle room, love.
Yeah.
Taxes or everything else. A milkshake tax. That's their...
And lattes.
You have to say, you have to look, on a serious note, you have to look at that front bench, genuinely, and say, her, Miliband, Lammy, because he eats his way through the... It's not great.
He's gone very quiet.
They could all go.
Let's not forget.
They could all
let's
go.
not forget the
They're all
fake
useless.
solicitor, Jonathan Reynolds.
Oh,
you know,
it's just
who
classic.
pretended to be a solicitor for 10 years before
He
he
doesn't look very
realised
well to me.
that he didn't mean. Well, he's running British Steel now. I mean, that's the other
They're
scary
all
thing.
liars and charlatans, aren't they?
Do you know he went inside the furnace, right? Because he was told, go and
Shame
see
he
what it's
didn't
like.
stay there.
I know. And he had protective gear on. And when he came out, he said, it was so hot in there, I thought I was going to melt. And I went, what did you think it was going to be like? It's a blast furnace in, Scunthorpe. What do you think it was going to be like?
Well, I
He's an
don't like
expert
it.
on what he's talking
And he's
about.
now
That's
running the company, British Steel. We're out of time for the first section. Coming up, it's one of our favourites. She's in California and she's really, really annoying. And of course, the BBC are back as well. This is Plank of the Week.
Live from London, it's Plank of the Week with Mike Graham.
Welcome back to Plank of the Week. I'm Mike Graham, and of course, this is your special Friday night edition of the home of common sense. And everybody's here. They've all given us a pretty good start to the show. It's now my turn, and I'm going to go with an old favourite. And I'm not sure this one's going to win, mind you, but it's Meghan Markle. Because she still hasn't yet gone away. And I'm not even going to talk about why she's on it. I'm just going to show you her latest little video podcast.
In this incredible conversation, Meghan shares stories and insights for the first time ever.
It's not about the grandeur of a gesture. It's about I see you. I'm nurturing you and I see you so deeply, and I love being able to see your growth. That man loves me so much, and look what we built. We built a beautiful life, and we have 2 healthy, beautiful children. That's my husband. He's just out there just constant, like he's just going to do whatever he can to make sure that our family is safe and protected and we're uplifted and still make time for date nights.
Oh, it's a sort of mass explosion of projectile vomiting.
That podcast would be great if you have to have surgery and there's no anaesthetic. I'd be grateful for a distraction from listening.
I mean, even for her, this is one of the worst things I've ever seen.
Suddenly,
Yeah.
can we make the serious point, apart from the HRH thing? I want to shouldn't speak like that. I want to leave the United Kingdom because intrusive press.
Yes.
Now, when your podcast and your career's on its arse, you're suddenly putting pictures of your kids all over your Instagram, aren't you?
Exactly right.
How hypocritical's that?
And by the way, I've never seen that woman before, but there's something very odd about her
She's
face.
never been on a date.
She certainly hasn't.
No.
And I don't think it's going to. Her name is Jamie Kern Lima.
Sorry?
Jamie Kern Lima. Three names.
That's not one of those, you can support any location using 3 words.
Yeah.
I think she's a place.
Yes.
I don't think
She
that's
could
a
be.
real person.
Was it some kind of emergency code? For the SAS.
Wasn't there also furore because in one of the shots she's sent a present to this woman and it's HRH, the Duchess of
Oh,
Sussex.
yes.
Yeah.
The only
You're not
thing-
allowed to use that.
Yeah, because the late Queen, God rest her soul, the best thing ever about our monarchy, didn't want them to use it,
No,
quite rightly.
exactly right. And I mean, the clip that's taken from, which is the sort of promo for the whole podcast, is so. I mean, it's just more of that, more cringy, more ridiculous.
They were nurturing each other, weren't they?
And the
Like
woman
you
at
do,
one
you know.
point, the one with the big moon face, Jamie.
I'm glad you said that.
Jamie Kern Lima.
Yeah.
At one point says, "I'm having full body chills."
Yeah.
Full body chills.
She hadn't eaten for 10 minutes.
Well, presumably. Yeah, give me another 10 hot dogs.
She couldn't find anyone else to interview her, though, could she? She sort of burnt all her bridges. No one likes her. So
I'm
she had to
hungry.
find
Who are
nobody.
these people that are interested?
Yeah,
I mean,
they're the
it's-
only
Did you
ones
see her
left for
face
her.
when she said, "Oh, my husband"?
Yeah.
No, it was the fakest, horrible thing.
She
At one
was smuggling
point,
a sex toy. It's the only way to make money, isn't it?
Yeah.
but she asked her, what's
Where's
your
she putting them?
morning
Diplomatic
routine?
immunity.
And she says, I get up, I make breakfast, I take the kids to school, and then I go to work. It's like
Yeah.
revelatory,
And look what
Meghan.
we've built. Right?
This lady has 3 kids under 6.
I know.
Right?
Look what we've built, she's going. I mean, what have you built exactly? You married a prince. You never have to work again.
made some shit jam,
He doesn't
and
have to
that's
work. The fat one. Oh, sorry. Jamie Kern
Moonface.
said, Moonface, yeah. She said, I've had your jam in the fridge for a year. I was like, that's not much of an endorsement. I haven't eaten it.
It tastes better after a year.
looked at it.
Looking at her, I think nothing lasts an hour in her fridge, so that jam must be really shit. To
Yeah,
just said
must
to
be.
fair.
Absolutely right.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
I've
my
used my
God.
swear word.
I don't know. I mean, it's just the worst thing.
I
don't
want to know, on a serious note, who continues to believe that makes financial sense to put this tripe out. I would love to know as well, that boy, I would love to know whether he has reached the point where he realises how stupid, outrageous, disgusting and vile this all is. Is he waking up to this
I think
yet?
he will. He's almost certainly
got to, man, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's got to.
think so?
Yeah, I think
Will
so.
he be welcome back, though? I think he probably
No,
will.
the thing is, he's not very bright, is he? And I mean, I think she's captured him. I think
Well,
she-
you might-
his
he's
father-
totally in her thrall.
Yes.
You know, I
Well,
don't think he's
whipped.
She says, well, yeah. She says jump, and he goes how high?
Yeah.
You know?
I think this is just my opinion. I think the king would, but I tell you what I do know from the old man when he was alive. William,
no chance.
not a chance.
You couldn't talk to him, could you? Because
And
it'll be
also,
his
you
next
know-
book.
That boy will be, I think, an amazing king. I think he will seek massive retribution on the people that did stuff to his mother, and I don't think his brother will get a look in and quite
And
right.
he's a
And you know
Villa
what's
fan,
funny is that, and interesting is that when they did unveil Lilibet with the little, accent and the
was out of
pictures and all
order.
that, they did that right after the official pictures came out of little George's birthday.
Always.
But you know, Lilibet, you know that's what really
Yes.
upset the Queen.
Yeah, I
That's
know.
what she and Margaret, that's
I
what
know.
Margaret called it,
Yes.
because she couldn't pay Elizabeth.
No, I know that. But the point is that, the only reason they did all that was because she can't stand it when William gets some publicity, and even his children get some publicity. She's
The next
unbelievable.
king, yeah?
Yes.
I don't even... Listen, you can be enthralled by a woman or even a man to make it balance, but he must know at some point that she is the laughing stock of the world,
Right.
isn't she?
Yeah, totally. And she says, of course, also, which is not in that clip, that she knows herself and she doesn't need validation. She goes, she actually says this, I know I'm a nice person. And you go, really? Do you? Are you? Why would you say it?
Why do you need to say it?
Why do you need to say
And
it?
if
I
you
know
know
I'm a nice
yourself,
person.
why do
Yeah.
you need everybody else to say it
Yeah,
for you?
I know.
Like accusations of bullying to know that you're a nice person.
Yeah.
That's what keeps
yes.
me warm.
That's exactly right. Jeremy, over to you. The BBC.
I don't think a week goes past.
No.
We don't actually think that the BBC is out of date, should be destroyed, is a leftist agenda and is full of woke idiots. They surpassed themselves a bit. There's a new chairman called Samir Shah.
Yes.
We've got to give
I
him a
used to
chance.
work with him,
Yeah,
yeah.
he's not a bad man.
Yeah.
But on the he did what they always do, which I hate, which is mark your own homework.
Yeah.
We're going to have an independent... It wasn't an independent report, it was
No.
inside.
Yeah, it was, but they paid
following
quite a
on
lot of
from-
money for it, didn't they? Barrister had to do it.
I think it was 300 grand, but
Yeah.
that pales into insignificance against the pension the pedo's getting, Hugh Edwards.
Yeah.
On the basis that they were so successful looking into Savile, they thought they'd use the same company, Change Associates, and they basically came back after several months and a lot of criticism and said that powerful individuals at the BBC are making the lives of colleagues unbearable, the chairman has said after a review. And he basically said, this isn't going to continue, and if we, this is after Lineker's left, by the way, if this carries on, you will be rooted out. And you just look at it and you go, I have a really strong opinion about this. I think that they have an agenda, but because I work in commercial media, I think it's an absolute flipping travesty that these people can get away with producing crap without having to justify. I think it's so outdated.
Yeah.
I think it is fundamentally wrong. I think it should be disbanded. It used to be great. I'm sure there's still some stuff that's good. But it doesn't work today.
No.
We work by how many clicks we get, the sponsorship we get, the viewers we get. They're sat there still in 2025. They make rubbish. People abuse. I mean, how many examples do you need? Savile, Hugh Edwards, all of it.
How many people as well do they have to employ?
Yeah.
Well, that's the trouble, is it? No one
Hordes
carries
of
the
them.
can, because, you know, the head of comedy used to be one person who went, that's funny, that isn't funny. Now it's a committee and you end up with nothing that's funny.
Yeah.
And no one gets blamed because there's so many names. No one has to resign. In the old days, you'd have to resign. I remember Hugh Edwards, the day before he got arrested, he was at the Trick Awards celebrating... You know, Whale was getting an award for his life. So he was there with all the BBC management round the table, and they all knew what was coming up because it was the next day and they didn't care less, you know.
Yeah.
He went up and got his award, and because no one gets named or anything.
No.
They just carry on. They just got to fudge it for a few weeks.
Horrible.
So it'll never happen again.
You've
and
worked
that's
at the BBC, Steve,
Yeah.
have you? As
Have
a
you?
comedian?
Yeah, well, I've done BBC radio and commercial radio.
Right.
And the difference is, you know, on radar days, listening figure days.
Yeah.
In the world of commercial, you worry because your contract might not be renewed. For the local radio radar days on the BBC, it's mainly about the buffet.
Yeah.
And at some point, they'll show you a little, look at that, we don't care.
Yeah.
Because they don't have to worry
We've lost
about
another 3 million.
Yeah.
And you know, on those days of the buffet, the woman that interviewed Meghan, she's straight on a plane from America, so she's having some of that buffet. Jill,
Yeah.
what was her name?
Yeah, absolutely right. But that's the other thing. The numbers of journalists that they've got working in, different... I say this all the time. You get on a plane, and suddenly there's a new BBC channel, which is only for that particular plane.
Yeah.
and you go, well, hang on, I've never seen any of these
How
people
have
before.
we allowed
Different from them. They've
something
got
so
BBC
large
World.
that seems to have... You'd be OK, wouldn't you, if it was a state broadcaster? But patently, not just because we work here, everybody will say the same. The licence fee isn't worth it.
No.
The choice is not what it was, and they have an agenda.
Yeah.
And that is not a state broadcaster in any sense of the word.
They're not journalists, they're activists, aren't they?
I agree with you.
So many of them are.
Yeah.
So many of them are. And also, this report also concluded that even though there were these, rather unfortunate episodes, overall, everybody loves the BBC.
Yeah, it's a
And
small
everybody
minority.
Yeah, and there's not a toxic culture at all.
No.
Even though a third of freelancers, according to this report, have been in some way inappropriately spoken to in one way, shape,
I would
or form.
only point out that the power of the lack of power in the BBC, or why we can criticise them, is best summed up by the fact that the Change Associates, the company that looked into Jimmy Savile, were asked to look into this.
Yeah, exactly. It says a lot.
I mean, what does that say?
I know.
But there's no banter, because of what you said, no one can talk to each other in the office because you end up in HR. So it's all like a library when you go in. It's like the opposite of Talk Radio and Talk TV and Talk Sport, where,
Have you worked at the BBC?
People, I did one little thing for Radio 4 for a production company, but no, I don't think
I've never, ever been anywhere near the BBC.
Really? I mean, I did stuff for them in Scotland.
Really?
Because,
You're joking?
Well, they used to get me on to do, like, paper reviews and
Did
things
you?
like that, yeah. And then it became a regular thing. And then when I got fired from the job up there, they offered me this...
You chose to leave, remember?
No, I've got fired.
All right,
No, I
just
did
thought
get
it was-
fired. No, I always get fired. I mean, I'm quite happy to admit that. I don't mind getting fired. They always pay you off. But anyway, the BBC Scotland had a show that they were launching, but the woman that they wanted to do it couldn't start for the first month or something. So I did the first month of this show, and we had 3 or 4 guests. It was a 1-hour-long show. 3 or 4 guests in the studio. About 7 production people in behind the scenes. There's a woman that came up with a tea trolley, right? And the producer I had for a show that went out for an hour on Sunday started work with me on a Tuesday and would talk to me from Tuesday to Wednesday to Thursday. We would book interviews. And then she went, do you think you'll be okay talking for an hour? I said, I've been doing a 3-hour show with no guests at all and sometimes no phone lines. I think I'll be all right.
That's when when I went to tell you, they'd say, oh, are you going to be all right? Yeah, we've done radio. That's what you do.
Yeah.
One person, crack on.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean?
It was extraordinary.
Yeah, TV people can't really do radio, but radio can do TV. It's a lot more... You have to be a lot more dynamic.
Yeah.
You used to know what...
Well, no, but you did radio before you did TV, didn't you?
No, because I completely
He's saying you
agree
can do
with
it that way, but you can't do the other way.
I think TV to radio, they see... People are in TV, see radio as a payoff.
Yeah.
Radio to television, definitely. If you can do radio, it's the hardest thing in the world, but the best for a training.
Freewheeling? More freewheeling?
Well, it's just you just have to do it.
It happened
You
to
don't
me
have a
last
choice.
night. I had a fear of we had 3 minutes to
Yeah.
fill, and he looked at me through the glass of fear. I can speak for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Yeah, but in TV you'd have an
It's shutting
autocue and
us
they're
up.
lost if they haven't got...
It's shutting us up, that's the problem. Candice, over to you.
Oh, so these are really, really deserving planks. So it's this ghastly trio from Belfast called Kneecap, very charmingly named. They basically pose as hard men. They think it's cool to praise Hamas, Hezbollah, and then last week a video was released of them basically saying, kill your local MP, which is just lovely. So anyway, they like to pose, like I say, as hard men, but as soon as people push back, they start claiming they're the victims.
Yes, because when people started saying things like they're supposed to be playing at Glastonbury, maybe they should not be playing at Glastonbury, maybe they should be pulled from Glastonbury, and they've now been pulled from the Eden Project, which was the place they were going to go and do a show.
Can I just ask that? Because the Eden Project in Cornwall is quite an important thing. Yes. Who thought the Eden Project, before this, that Kneecap was a good booking?
Yeah.
If you look into their history and what they say.
Right. Well, not only that, they've actually been given government grants, this lot.
Yes.
Right?
No.
Yes.
For shouting and spewing,
They should be arrested. I mean, they're caught inciting violence, killing MPs.
Well, here, have a look. This is them telling fans to kill their local MP.
The only good point is a dead point. Kill their local MP.
Afterwards, they said that had been taken out of context. I'm sorry, guys. You actually said kill your MP
Saw
on
the
a
interview
stage.
with David Amos's daughter.
Yeah.
Look, whatever your political
She's
persuasion,
amazing.
they're serving your community. Get killed.
I know.
Really,
Shocking.
they should be dropped by everybody.
They claim it's a smear, but it's not a smear if you actually said it.
No.
Then it's accurate reporting.
Yeah. Here's a picture of Kneecap with one of their biggest fans. Check this out. Jeremy Corbyn.
Well, of course.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
Jeremy
yeah.
Corbyn.
Yeah.
And here's the Katie Amos clip that you were talking about.
People have died because of this, and it's very, very dangerous for a young pop group or rap group, whatever genre they are, to be telling people to go and kill, let alone an MP, anybody. They're inciting murder.
It is extraordinary, isn't it? With old two-tier Keir, of course, because they're shouting and going on about Hamas. Is he going to lock them up? Is he going to...
That's another reason to lock them up. But, I mean, they gave that woman, the councillor's wife, 3 years for a less inciting freight, you know.
And he quite rightly, after Southport, said, I'm getting the right-wing scum off the streets, and we had no police, no space in jails and no courts, and in 24 hours... there were 6,000 more police, the courts were working, the jails were open. Quite rightly, they went. Labels them all far right. They should be put... I'm with you. That is inciting murder. They should be put in prison.
They should. And if they
have a record company, they're not dropped them yet.
They want to be hard men and support the IRA, which they also do, by the way. Let them go into an English prison and see how they like that.
I think their name's quite interesting.
Yes, indeed. They have indeed been kneecapped. In fact, that's the fitting end.
A typical IRA punishment.
Yeah, exactly right.
FAFO? What's that?
FAFO. They are the epitome of FAFO.
You can't say it on a family show.
Yes.
I'll tell you.
F around and find out.
F around and find out. Yeah. Coming up next, though, what have we got? We've got the Prime Minister once again, and somebody else from the world of television. This is Plank of the Week.
Live from London, it's Plank of the Week with Mike Graham.
Welcome back to Plank of the Week. It is almost time to pick the winner, but not yet, because we've got 3 more to go. Mr. Steve N. Allen, over to you.
I'm going for Sir Keir of Starmer.
Quite right.
I've heard of it. The reason I'm going from this week
or Keith Starlin, as we prefer to call it.
That is Nick. So this is how this is why. Previously, you might remember he promised to stop using hotels for migrants, and that's gone up, so that's a fail. They've also promised to smash the gangs.
Yeah.
They managed to smash the grands. Close, just like a typo almost.
Yeah. He also promised to smash the smuggling guns. I don't know what they are.
And rescue the sausages.
They were banned in the 80s.
Yeah, he was going to release them, wasn't he?
Release the sausages.
Release the sausages.
Yeah.
But now there's a new plan.
Right.
Where they are promising landlords the chance to get paid above market rent with a 5-year fixed guaranteed deal if you will rent out your property to someone who's seeking asylum. And as someone who's got a flat that he rents out, I like the sound of this. He's talking he's talking some sense.
And they do all the repairs as well.
What about the Iranian vibrator salesman? Maybe he would get one of these
place
houses.
I don't have a lot of storage, so I don't think you'd want that one. But, the problem with this is, of course, because it's above market rate, it's going to push up rental for everyone else. That's how the market works, which means more people will become homeless. But if you are, here's my plan. Get yourself to Calais, get on a boat back across, pretend to speak some sort of foreign language. You'll get yourself
chuck
a
your passport in the
flat,
sea, and then you can say you don't speak English. You just keep nodding your head.
Look worried that your wife and kids are still being bombed because you left them there.
Do that. That's free flat. Move around my place.
Absolutely. Get a job with one of the food delivery companies. You know, under an assumed name.
I wonder if anyone's done that, actually done. There must be one person who's living it up in a hotel who's just a British citizen.
The great thing about that is that wouldn't increase net migration, because you'd have one out.
It's like the conspiracy theories of 9/11. Do you know how many people in 9/11 allegedly left terrible marriages or were skint or whatever?
Right.
I wonder how many people have gone, I'm absolutely skint over. Like I said, I'm going to Calais.
Well, we had a guy ring up who was actually a landlord, and he said the council were being, and it wasn't, I think it was Serco actually, the people who are running this whole racket,
they are,
getting paid billions of pounds by the government. And he had a sort of a 3-bedroom house to rent out, and they wanted to turn it into sort of multiple occupancy unit with about 17, beds in it. And they were offering him 1,100 quid, which was about market rate. And he said, "No, you're all right." And they went, "How about 1,200?" He said, "No, really, I don't. You're okay." 1,300. They went all the way up to 1,500 quid.
Yeah.
Before he said,
Didn't
"Look,
he
I
say,
don't."
now you're getting warmer?
No, he just said, "Look, I don't want." He was actually quite a good guy. He said, "I don't want to have migrants living in my house. I just don't want them." Because the other thing they're guaranteeing is that if there's any damage done, repairs will be paid for, all the bills will be paid, you'll have guaranteed income for 5 years. I mean, there'll be a lot of unscrupulous people who will go for it. Because it's
well, there's a lot of hotel billionaires. I mean, you can't blame them after COVID. They got no money.
The Sun had that story back end of last week, wasn't it? 700 million quid in 1 year made by this hotel group.
Yeah.
Who've got like 50 hotels, and they were all being given out to migrants.
You see the story this week about Datchet, which is next to Windsor, where I used to live, and it's just a little sweet little hamlet. And those are people who have retired there; they've worked all their lives. There's 370 of them crammed into this hotel, the Manor Hotel. None of them can sell their houses. They're getting abused abused on the streets. They're sitting on the green, smoking, abusing,
Yeah.
whatever, nicking.
Yeah.
And people go, you're being unfair. No, you're not. You've worked all your life. They want to enjoy their retirement. Now they're being forced out.
Exactly.
But
It's
look
absolutely
at what
unbelievable.
this created in the US, basically.
Yeah.
Like
Donald
all
Trump.
this stuff over immigration. There
Yeah.
was a huge backlash.
Yeah.
I mean, they were handing out prepaid debit cards
Right.
in New York.
Yeah, $350 a week or something. Ridiculous.
It is mad. But Starmer's great for the slogans, isn't he? Because this week he also came up with another slogan, which was that it was all about fly tipping. Because, you know, obviously everybody's thinking about Birmingham and the terrible rats the size of
Rats the size of donkeys.
Rats the size of donkeys is the latest.
Oh, don't mention Birmingham. These still will be off.
I know, they're getting bigger and bigger. But so they've come up with this plan where they're going to basically punish anybody who fly tips illegally, right? I don't know how they're going to. They haven't defined it, but they say that if they find you doing it deliberately, there will be CCTV which will capture your number plate, and they will come after you. And again, I don't know why he comes up with these ridiculous notions. He's, we will crush the vans. He goes. We're going to, smash the gangs and
So
crush
we're going
the
to
vans.
crush the van.
They're going to crush.
But we're
the
not doing
vans.
anything about illegal migrants.
No. This is if you're fly tipping, you're going to crush the vans.
I mean,
And as somebody said, well, what if
gonna
you're
have to
using
get a false
fake number plate, or what if the van's stolen, or what if you've rented it?
Yeah.
And it belongs to some rental company.
Well, if somebody's still in there when you try and crush
they're
it.
going to crush. But why does he use this kind of ridiculous language?
Never going to work.
and has any of it worked?
The van.
Crush the van, smash the vans.
It's like a Dalek.
Release the
isn't it?
sausages.
It's more like a Dalek every day.
Yeah.
Well, there was an interesting article this week, earlier in the week, and this was, again, that Labour guy that was on my show said, and I told you about what he said about Millipede and
Yeah.
what he said about Richard III. He says that he will not, that he absolutely agrees with you, there's no way Starmer will get to the end of his term.
Yeah.
The Labour Party will say,
Yeah.
sorry, mate, you've done great, you got
Yeah.
us in, look at the page, you're done.
They're
Where's
already revolting, and that's not just the.
I like what you
individuals.
did there.
Oh, thank you very much.
The peasants are revolting.
Now, Dawn Butler is not actually part of this story, but she made a complete fool of herself, so we thought we'd play the clip anyway, for no apparent reason. Here she is.
We're saying that people who are biologically men shouldn't be using women's toilets. That's the point of this ruling, among other things.
But a trans man is biologically a woman.
Someone who's transitioned from being a woman to a man is...
And so they would then have to use women's toilets.
I think this...
And that's the problem.
I mean, this is why the state of the British broadcast business is it's the way it is. You know, that was supposedly, a very clever trio of people who completely bamboozled one another to such an extent they literally became speechless.
Yeah, by the time they'd answered that, they'd have wet themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Which one?
Yeah.
Which toilet are you going?
They couldn't quite understand the premise of a trans man, and they suddenly went,
I don't really understand. I don't really, do you?
yeah, a trans man is a woman who wants to be a man.
Right, yeah.
So she was a woman biologically.
What toilet's she going to use? Just give them their own toilets. Can we crack on with it? Why
don't you just go at home and stop
There's
bothering
going to be
everyone?
loads of toilets like the green and brown and blue bins, isn't there? And you can get it all wrong. Which one do you go
Well, they
in?
should leave the toilets that they put out for the
Don't
marathon.
put your food in the thing that's-
No, exactly.
I got stuck behind a bunch of toilets when I was coming back from Sussex on Sunday, because they were meant to open the roads at 4 o'clock after the marathon, right? So I always time it so I get back to South East London around about 4:15. Guess what? They didn't open the roads till 5. So I always had to be meandering around trying to find my way around. At one point, I was stuck behind a bloke towing a load of portaloos. And I was
Handy though, isn't it? You know.
Well, yeah.
You got
But I
stuck in
thought, why
traffic,
don't you just leave those all out, and then the trans people could use those?
Yeah.
Did you see a man running in as a pair of bollocks at all?
No, I didn't actually. No. But I heard there was
Why
somebody.
does it have to be two?
Yeah,
Just one rolling out the street.
Well, I
like a
heard that there
prisoner.
was somebody doing that. I think it was you that
So
told me.
I just wondered maybe he was holding up the traffic.
Anyway, never mind that. We've got some more completely pointless clips for you. Here's Ed Davies. See what he did this week.
Suspect only got a bronze at the general election.
Hey, come on.
Suspect has no balance and falls off pedal boards easily.
What are you talking about?
Suspect sings ABBA songs. Badly.
Take a chance on me.
He looks like Wayne Rooney, doesn't he?
What's wrong? No. Have you seen Wayne Rooney? I saw Wayne.
Well, not
Rooney.
anymore. Yeah.
Wayne Rooney up at the semi-final on Sunday. He was on, or was it Saturday?
He looks like Captain Birdseye
He looks
now,
like
doesn't
Captain
he?
Birdseye.
We haven't seen Colleen for a couple of months. There are rumours that he's eaten her. that could be true. The thing about Davey is, right, the thing about, this is again me being serious. What does it say about the last election, our political situation? That idiot who dressed and just jumped, got 72 seats.
Yeah, I know.
That's appalling.
They got less votes than Reform, who got 5 seats.
Mate,
I know.
it's embarrassing.
It's unbelievable. Ash, over to you. You've got another television programme.
Well, ITV have decided to put a trigger warning on Worzel Gummidge, you know, the original one, because, you know, it's quite violent and dark, you know. I mean, he used to have his head cut off and the Crow Man would threaten to throw him in the fire. Eunice Stubbs, who was Aunt Sally, reminded me of, like... you know, when a murderer, serial killer, has a female accomplice, she was like...
But isn't this like a Roald Dahl kind of type story, isn't it? There's some quite weird...
Yeah, but it's how we learnt as children that life was cruel and people got murdered and, you know, they're all mollycoddled now. I show my nieces Bagpuss, I try and get them into it and they're just bored. They just want to see bright colours. But now we're seeing how it's not preparing them for life because, you know, we were all depressed because we were brought up by Bagpuss and the Clangers and, you know, it was all really depressing and full of death. So you were ready for adult life.
I don't remember the Clangers being full of death.
It was depressing. It was on the... it was all dark and, you know what I mean? There wasn't much... They looked forward to soup. She'd tax that, wouldn't she, Rachel Reeves? She would. But, I mean, this is why kids aren't ready. And, you know, when they had this power cut in Spain and... stuff. The millennials or the general, whatever you call them, they didn't know what to do because they'd lost their internet. Whereas we'd be all right. We'd go, oh, this is just like the 90s, you know what I mean?
Right.
And things can only get better. But their lives are over when...
Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, for those of you who've never seen Worzel Gummidge, here it is.
Aunt Sally. What? Seeing as you're at the seesaw with your intended, what loves you most in the whole wild world? How about giving him a turn with your bucket and spade?
Give me one good reason why I should give you a turn.
Because if you don't, I'll knock your flipping wooden head off, that's why.
You'll do what, Worzel Gummidge?
Ow!
I think that's quite funny. She calls him a half-witted flea bag, apparently, at one point, and then he calls her a worm-riddled old skittle.
He says he'd knock her head off.
Love that kind of thing.
The most offensive thing, he wants to see a bucket.
I don't think it's fair.
Yeah,
to
he doesn't want any
ITV
criticism of
too
ITV.
much.
Well, it's obviously the department which these criticise.
No, it's true. It's bloody madness, isn't it? You're so right. The bag, honestly,
it set us up, didn't it?
I just think I said to my kids this week that there will be shortages this summer. There will be strikes. There will be blackouts. There'll be shortages of food.
Probably riots.
They look at me like, what?
You can't call them blackouts anymore. Outs of colour.
Right. Outages, I saw somebody calling them.
Outages.
You're not allowed to say blackout.
Probably not.
They can't play blackjack.
No. Well, you can in a casino, I suppose. I don't know what they call it, though. Anyway, listen, we're nearly at the end. I've always been rendered speechless by that last segment. Coming up, though, we're going to talk about doctors, because they are absolutely nothing.
Are they in the house?
They are in the house. Very good. But they're mostly junior doctors, so... As you know, these are not real doctors, they're just Marxists wearing white coats. But we'll come back with more of that on Plank of the Week.
Live from London, it's Plank of the Week with Mike Graham.
Welcome back to Plank of the Week. We are very nearly in the final furlong. I've got to decide who's going to win it this week, and there's been plenty of great contenders. I'm going to add my second nomination in, and it is the British Medical Association. These are the people who basically organise strikes. They're not really anything other than a superannuated union, a trade union, and they're run by these young characters who call themselves, you know, junior doctors who don't seem to do much doctoring, and mostly seem to spend a lot of time on foreign holidays and standing on picket lines and being interviewed by the BBC. But they've decided, apropos of that Dawn Butler clip we saw, that the Supreme Court's ruling on trans women not being women is incorrect. They say it has no basis in science. These people are doctors, right? And they're basically saying that a woman can have a penis, even though the law now says that they can't. And the law now says that actually it's illegal for a trans woman to try and pretend to be a bloke in order to gain access to women's spaces. These are the people that are involved in the NHS. These are the people that will probably have decisions being made around whether women can be admitted to wards even if they've got a penis, because they're called women. And they're also going to be judging whether or not, if you wish to be examined by a female doctor, the female doctor that you think is a female might not be.
I honestly don't know what to say.
I know. It's mad, isn't it?
You know, you say about... I've always said with the doctors thing that if I was... One of the ways I'd sort out the NHS is if you're going to work, if we're going to train you, you're going to sign a contract and stay for 10 years. And they go, oh, we're going to leave, we're going to go to Australia. These people shouldn't even be in a job.
No, they shouldn't be doctors.
It's just ideological bollocks.
They don't care about saving lives either. And, you know, there was... people are actually dying from this because they actually don't even put trans woman, they put woman. So, you know, people aren't getting asked for smear tests because they call themselves men. And they're just politicians. Like, again, it's all captured and they don't care about saving lives anymore. The BMA were mainly concerned in their meeting about a year ago about Hamas and Gaza and all that. It's got nothing to do with
exactly.
You know, the flip side of that would be there must be loads of trans men who've been called in for a prostate exam, and you must be there for like half an hour. Trying to work out. I've not found it yet.
No.
Where'd you put the spatula?
They're quite enjoying it though, presumably. I mean, I don't know. Sorry, that's maybe the wrong thing to say. But
there's a market for it.
There could well be. Well,
I think we've
call
reached
for
the bottom there.
Call for the Iranian sex toy smuggler, I think is the thing. Now, they've also joined up with a woman called, actually, well, a trans woman called Judge Victoria McLeod, who's the first trans judge, would you believe, who is taking the Supreme Court case and going to the European Court of Human Rights.
Of course she is.
With the backing of the BMA
to
take on the government to try and get the measure
But won't they overturn
reversed.
it, the ECHR?
Well,
because they
I
are
bet
the Supreme Court above the Supreme Court.
I bet you they will, but actually they're not, because at the end of the day, the Supreme Court is the highest court in this land.
I hope they do. I hope they do.
I hope they do, because it will put
That'll be
Starmer,
a final decision.
That'll be the end of
ECHR
Starmer.
supersedes the Supreme Court.
No,
if the ECHR tries to do the Supreme Court, which was set up by Tony Blair, then you've got Armageddon. Because if he doesn't, then there's
exactly right.
to get rid of
it. Exactly right. But it's for guidance only. The ECHR is only for guidance. You don't have to do anything that they say.
Yeah, exactly right.
All the other countries in Europe, like France, Germany, Italy, they just ignore it. They just go, thanks very much indeed, but we'll just do what we want, thanks. But we don't.
Cowardly politicians.
But Starmer would have to ignore it if the ECHR said that the Supreme Court was wrong.
Because he said that the Supreme Court is the law.
And he also said, we found clarity.
He's such a coward. Like that is why they're always bouncing everything over to the legal profession, the court, because they don't want to deal with it.
That's not Actually, we've got some late breaking news in about Sir Keir Starmer. He said that temperatures set to hit 25 degrees this weekend, and he's pleaded with the British public in an address that you'll see later not to overcrowd the beaches. He says that
for God's sake.
No, he says please don't, because there won't be any room for migrants to land in their boats. So that's breaking news.
Yes, I saw that one earlier.
He doesn't apologise for saying that women can. He should say that I made a mistake. Women can't have penises.
Yeah,
you know
he won't know.
Well, he should have.
There's clarity.
He should have. Because he's too frightened to say that, because that would upset his mates.
I was in this very studio when Piers was interviewing him, and I'm stood there, and he says, "Can a woman have a penis?" And the bloke can't answer it.
No,
literally can't answer it.
Yeah.
How can a woman have a penis?
Yeah, I know.
Like a man can grow a cervix.
Yeah, but that's what David Lammy.
Well, we had a bloke on the other day who was on the show, and he said, all this talk about civics is, and we were, it's not a Honda, it's a cervix. No, it's civics. He kept saying civics. The new Honda Civics. Very good.
How would you grow one anyway? Someone should have asked Lammy how you do it.
Yeah, hydroponically, presumably.
Yeah, but I would have thought.
Lammy says you can grow a cervix.
Yes.
Bright light.
Yeah. He's actually on record.
Probably eat that. That didn't sound right.
He's on record.
He's eating everything else.
What's this for? Anyway, so time for making the award, isn't it? I think Net Zero is a very good contender this week, because if it wasn't for Net Zero, Tony Blair wouldn't have said what he said. If it wasn't for Net Zero, it looks as though they wouldn't have lost all the beer taps in.
I sort of think she's got
Benidorm.
both. I think Kneecap are the biggest.
Kneecap are the biggest planks.
I think both of Candice's. Kneecap's a very annoying plank.
Yeah.
Well, criminal planks, I would
Also,
say.
they're worse than planks, in my view. They should be locked up.
Yeah.
And teach them a bit of medicine. You know, in fact,
on two counts.
I put him in H block.
Saying kill an MP and prescribed and supporting a terrorist group.
Yeah, maybe planks is too soft for them.
I think it is. Yeah, no, I think it's going to be Net Zero.
Should use the plank on them.
Yeah, absolutely right. Steady on.
Well, we can get the Iranian round for that.
Yeah.
Yes,
there's a market for it.
There is, as you keep saying. I think it's Net Zero.
Hey,
so well done to Candice Holdsworth. Net Zero wins plank of the week. Managed to get Tony Blair to say something sensible for the first time.
I know, I found myself on there going, hurrah,
I know.
Tony Blair.
Absolutely unbelievable. So, well done to everybody. Jeremy Cole, thank you. Candice, well done. Stephen Allen, and of course, Ash Gould. Hope you enjoyed it. And we might.
I did, I loved it, man.
Excellent. So, we'll have you back
and
next
we
time
loved you.
on Plank of the Week. We'll see you soon.